Okay, so we are jumping back over to Ravenna here in Italy. And we are now circa 526 to 548. And one thing that hopefully you notice right away about this church, the Church of San Vitelli, is that it is an octagon shape, not the most usual shape to a building. It's very unusual. So we have this octagon that makes up this building, and then it has the central dome in the middle. So it's an unusual floor plan. And if we look on the inside of it, it has the telltale mosaics of the Byzantine architecture, really very beautifully done. It has all the gold, and they're gold mosaics, so they're glass, and then sandwiched in between the little pieces of glass is gold leaf, very thinly hammered pieces of gold. We have our saints up here in what is known the semicircles. If you remember, when we were looking all the way back to Greek art, they're called asps. And so here we have the asps, and in the last picture actually, you can see here, right? These kind of semicircles. Sometimes there's a few of them, sometimes there's one of them in this case, depending on the floor plan of the building. We have also here this kind of taking of the marble and making these patterns and designs. This was actually found in the Pantheon as well. This was used in Hagia Sophia, and we'll see it again and again. And literally what they're doing is they're taking a piece of marble and they're cutting it very, very thinly, and then they're putting it end to end like this. And it's almost as if they take it and they open it up like a book, and then it makes this kind of pattern, abstract kind of pattern design. It's really beautiful. So we'll see this throughout the Byzantine art here, and we'll see it into the Islamic art. So we'll see it for a little bit. Next, I'm showing you the mosaic in the Church of San Vitelli, and this is of the Emperor Justinian. And across from this is the Empress Theodora. And so we'll go back to Justinian first. Let's look at the one of Justinian. So hopefully one thing you notice about this mosaic is how flat it is. There's no real depth into this space. So what you'll notice if you look at the feet is that it literally looks like one foot is standing on top of the other foot here. The same here, like this is literally standing on this guy's foot. So they occupy the same space here. There's no real background behind the men here. We have Justinian in the middle, and he is shown with a halo. So he's shown again being like the divine one that God has chosen to rule the empire. This has been shown again and again and again throughout the art we've looked at. He holds the bread here, loaf of bread, indicating the Eucharist. And for those of you that don't know what the Eucharist is, it's a ceremony that's done in Mass, and it is supposedly the transformation of the bread and the wine to the body and blood of Jesus. And then you take the host, it's called, in your mouth, and it's supposed to be the body of Jesus, and this is called getting the wafer, performing communion. Off to the side here, we have the soldiers. We have more men of the church here. And here we have the leader of the Orthodox Church that is shown here. But as far as artistically, what I really want to point out is how they're occupying the same space. They're also, their bodies are very elongated. They're not in proportion. And we're going to see this kind of flattening out of the space, elongating the body for a little while. And it really has to do with something, the beginning of something called iconoclasm. And I have some videos up this week that really explains that quite well. But what you have is this divide that begins to happen where you have some parts of the church, mainly those that had been believing the polytheistic Roman religion to begin with, and they're converted to become Catholic, and we still have some ideas of Roman in there. And they like images. They want to see sculpture. They want to see images of the gods. And then you have the other group of the people that take this reading of the Ten Commandments very literally. And the idea that you're not to make images of God is one of the commandments. And so they take this literally, and they don't want to see images of humans or animals in churches. So they're kind of like the purists. And then eventually we have this middle ground where what happens is they say, okay, we can make images in the church, but what we have to do is we have to make them so they're not realistic looking. So we're going to flatten out the space. We're going to purposefully elongate the body and make things out of proportion so that we don't make this connection right away to the actual person being too human, being too much like what actually supposedly God made, right? So it's a way around this division within the people in the church. And the people that were the purists that didn't want these images in the church, literally for a while were running around and destroying the art in churches if they were depicting people. Another thing is we're not going to see sculpture because sculpture is too realistic. It's too much like the physical being of a person. So we're going to see these weird kind of proportioned images of people in these flattened spaces. So we jump across to Theodora on the other side, Empress Theodora, and she has this kind of colored past. She started supposedly as a dancer, but Justinian was really taken by her, and he makes her the empress. So big jump in class there from a dancer to the empress, right? And she's shown here again in this very flattened space where these women, the faces all look the same. They're very much standing in the same kind of space, flattened space. And here are her attendants. And then you have this one man here who pulls the curtain back, and so we have kind of this illusion of space. There's this other room, but things are really weird. Like if we look at the fountain, we're looking at this like from the side. We're looking up at the fountain and down at the fountain at the same time. It almost looks like it's going to tip over. So very strange in the way that it's depicted. She holds a chalice, which is for the wine for the Eucharistic service. So she too is taking part in this. She too is making a connection to God, that she has been the chosen one to be the empress. They're really, really beautiful pieces of art that are created in this mosaic style during this time period to honor Justinian.